Hello guys and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about The Sound of Metal. I have just watched the film. For those of you that don't know, sometimes I just sit down, talk about a film that I've watched and it's about 10 minutes or so. So if you're expecting any footage in this video, there is none to be had. I'm essentially just going to talk about the film, my thoughts, impressions, first feelings, and my general opinion about the film. I probably will miss some stuff. It's not because I didn't pay attention, it's just because I gravitated towards certain things and we all watch films in different ways. That being said, quick disclaimer, if for whatever reason I like or dislike the film, if for the same reason you have the opposite opinion, you're not wrong. It is all subjective. Let's all just remember that and let's all be nice to each other, perhaps in the comment section. Without further ado, let's talk about The Sound of Metal. So why the fuck do I have mixed feelings about it? Because I do. I have mixed feelings about this film. I think it was generally well received from what I know and from what I've heard. Riz Ahmed was nominated for Best Actor, I believe. I don't know what it was, an Oscar, fuck knows. So I'll be honest with you, I started watching this film and I had no idea what it was about. Which is dumb because I literally remember I was told what it was about. By the way, spoilers for the film. I am going to talk about the film. There are going to be spoilers, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to fuck off. Time's up. It's about a person that goes deaf. A drummer that goes deaf. I slowly started to remember that I'd been told the premise of the film, and I realised this is dumb. This is so stupid, Tyler. I hate this kind of film. I don't want to see this. By the way, something to applaud in the film is that it starts so quickly. So quickly. There's no kind of like long build up. Riz's character Ruben essentially just starts drumming his hearing, starts going, and it doesn't kind of linger on it too much. He just kind of goes to the doctor and is like, "You're losing your hearing," and then he goes and loses the rest of it. Okay. Now I got into this and I realised this was what was happening, and I was like, I hate these kinds of films. I just do. I hate them. I don't like watching a person lose something like that or to have to deal with something like that, because I'm like, I feel like the way this movie is going to go is just going to be this depressing spiral of like having to cope and deal and adjust to this thing that has changed your life essentially. Because I don't know about you, but like you get those random thoughts and it's like, oh, what if I lost this and that and this and and it's terrorizing, it's terrifying to think that you might lose a sense one day and how that would impact your life and all the things that you would lose. It terrifies me. So I started watching this and I was like, fuck no. I don't want to sit down for 2 hours and watch this guy go through this, because it's just going to make me feel shit and makes you start to think of how your life would be if you lost that thing. So immediately, I was really not looking forward to the film and not enjoying the premise of the film and how it was going. And then went towards this rehabilitation route. The story of the film is Ruben being rehabilitated and learning to deal with it, which is so strange because, and by the way, I love that. I really like that. I didn't expect it to go that way. Again, I had no idea about the film. If you'd have made this film 10 years ago, the whole film would have been Ruben learning how to work around the hearing loss while still being a drummer. And the focus of the film, I feel, would have been the band and the band succeeding, and it would have all been about the band and him trying to adjust and live his life as he had been living. And it would the happiness and the success, like the goal of the film would have been for the band to achieve success, and it would have been this like, kind of overcoming of the disability to anyway, I didn't want to watch that, and I thought that's where it was going to go, and it didn't. It went through this healthy route. It went down this healthy route that led Ruben on his way to recovery, and it was really nice. It was really wholesome to watch that and to see it and to see that start to happen. It was really good. So it was weird. So I started watching the film, hated the first 15 minutes and was dreading what was going to come after. And then the middle part of the film is probably my favourite part of the film, when Ruben is at the school, the institution. There's not an institution, but the place that he goes to learn how, sign language and how to live with no hearing and to function. And possibly the moment of the film for me, and what I liked so much about it, was that it was this idea and this message that people with hearing loss or whatever it might be, people who have lost a sense, aren't disabled. And there was a really lovely scene between the bloke and Ruben, the mentor guy, where Ruben came back and said, I'm going to leave, that's my decision, can I stick around for a few weeks? And the guy was like, no, sorry, I can tell that you think this is a disability, it's not a disability. That was lovely. That was genuinely lovely. I loved that part of it. Okay, so let's talk, I guess, about the parts that didn't resonate so much with me. He just slid back into his old path, I suppose, and he left the school. There was this moment where it was like, oh, Ruben, would you please stay and help the children? You've really fit in here. You offer these people different things, these things that enriches us, and we would like you to stay. And he's like, nah, mate, fuck off. I didn't say that. He didn't say that. But he maybe signed it. He didn't. Yeah, he saw a video of Lou, obviously living her life and being a musician and doing that, which, nothing wrong with that. She's living her life. And so we slide into the final part of the film, the final third of the film, which I think is where the film loses its way for me. It kind of goes off its tracks into this wilderness that I don't think it quite knows how to traverse, or doesn't traverse in a way that I think is done well for me. And I think this is where my biggest issue with the film comes in. By the way, before I say this, I should say I really like Riz Ahmed. I think he's a good actor. I enjoy watching him. Part of the reason that I was excited to actually watch it and I was up for watching it was because he was in it. He was the lead, and he'd been not only that, he'd been nominated for Best Actor. So I was like, great, cool, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that journey. I want to see it. I want to see him do that. I want to see that performance. So with that being said, the biggest part of the film that I have the issue with is that Riz Ahmed was cast. So hang on. Nothing to do with Riz Ahmed personally, on a personal level. However, he's not an actor who is deaf or hard of hearing. First of all, he's taking away that role from someone that could play that more convincingly. Because that's the thing, as an actor, when you go into that kind of role, Riz isn't just acting. He's not just giving a performance. He's acting deaf. That's the thing, and that's why I'm judging this harshly in a way, because at the end of the day, he was nominated for Best Actor, so that's the benchmark, that's the bar that I'm looking at. That I'm like, right, he's got to hit that then. Okay, he's been nominated for this thing. He's taken this role away from a deaf person, a person that is hard of hearing. He's taken that from that actor, because they are out there. They fucking are, despite what producers or casting directors are going to say, or that anyone else is going to say for that matter. And it's like, okay, cool, okay, he's done. That's fine, that's done. But he better be fucking good, yeah. And there's nothing wrong necessarily with the performance itself. However, because I was watching that and I was watching that carefully, I really wanted to be convinced that he was right for it or whatever. For me, because he isn't hard of hearing, he's not deaf. There was something lacking in the performance. And he wasn't just having to act, he was having to act deaf. That's 2 jobs. Now, if you've only got one, if your job is just to act, the performance is going to be better because you don't have to think about this one, right? And to be honest, Riz forgot. He forgot sometimes that he was supposed to be acting deaf because, and watch the film back, when him and, I think, is it John, the counsellor, the guy who gets him into the place, when they're talking, there's this machine. Riz looks at the machine to see what he's saying, and then he reads it and he's like, okay, that's what you said. I noticed as in the early scenes between the two of them, when that was a dynamic, when he didn't know sign language, he couldn't read what is it Joe, it is Joe, right? When they were conversing, Joe would say something and Riz would react. The first thing he would do wasn't necessarily to look at the screen, right? And for me, a person in that situation would look at the screen and be looking at the words, because that would be a crutch. That would be something that you were grasping out towards, because that's communication, something that you've lost. As a person who is deaf or hard of hearing, they would have just known that. They would know that because they've experienced it, so they don't have to think about it, they just do it. Riz didn't do that. I noticed a lot, he reacted, and there were a couple of times, or at least one time, for example, where Joe said something and Ruben, kind of reacted and looked down and away from the screen, and I was like, is he deaf? Is he? Later on in the film, again, this happens where Ruben's more accomplished with sign language. He's learned to communicate these ways. And Joe is communicating in sign language and using sign language. And Riz is doing the same thing. He's not looking, you can tell, he's not looking at Joe's hands. he reacts first, and he's not necessarily always looking at the visual cues. And I don't want to be harsh on Riz, because like I say, I like him as an actor, and I liked his performance. I just think that something was lost in there. Something wasn't quite there. And I think the issue is that they didn't cast an actor that was hard of hearing or deaf and that had been through these things. And fair play to Riz, he's having to do two things. He's having to act deaf and act and perform. It's a hard thing to do. And I am nitpicking. I know that I am. But for me, that lowered the level of the film. And I'll repeat it, I'll say it again, because he was nominated for an award, I'm gonna judge him. I'm gonna judge the fuck out of him. I am. I've literally just watched Run. Run was my last video, and I found out afterwards that the person cast in that has... So for those of you who don't know, the protagonist is in a wheelchair, and the actor who plays the protagonist does actually need a wheelchair, right? So they cast someone for that role that didn't have to act as that thing. And that's great, and that should be happening more. And because they didn't do that in this film, one, it lost a lot. It lost something, and two, morally, you're on kind of shaky ground. It's 2021, shake the fuck up, you know? As well, like when Riz got the operation and he got the things in his head, as I was watching and hearing what he was hearing, I was kind of cringing. I was like, that's a horrible sound. That's a horrible sound. And I was watching Riz, and he didn't once, because I was watching, fucking very specifically for him to react to this. And I get him as a character not wanting to show that it's bothering him and that it's difficult for him, because I think that's very much in character. But once, all I wanted was him one time to just wince a little, like right at the beginning when he's first hearing it, if he winces like a little bit, like, that's not what I expected. And it was pointed out to me afterwards, actually, that being an addict, he's used to pain, he's used to intense feeling, and that's probably why he was so blank. Don't buy it. I'm sorry, I don't buy that, because it's one thing when you're talking about pain, but it's a feeling and a sensation and something that he's never experienced before, and it's new. And if anything, at least I wanted to see surprise or just something. Bottom line is, I think the biggest issue that I kind of had with part of the film was the casting of a person that had their hearing entirely intact. And I think because of that, the performance lost something. So I think I'll finish with talking about the final part of the film. So he meets up with Lou, and he ends up in France. He goes to Lou's dad's place, I guess. Meets the dad. He's French. He's rich. Lou's French, apparently. Sure, why not? Why the fuck not? That direction just seemed like completely out of left field for me. I was like, why did they have to be rich? What does this offer to the story? And it's like, if you were going to give attention to Lou and her story, which I feel like it was trying to do, too late. Too fucking late, dude. You can't like write a script and shoot a film and have it about one guy, and then for like a minute, like a little fucking pocket of time, you start to tell this girl's story, and it's like, okay, but the film's nearly finished. So what? It just seemed very odd to me, and it was like, rich artsiness for the sake of it. From the beginning of the film, Lou seemed American. She seemed like an American, blah, 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 blah. And fine, if she's French, that's cool. But why? In the film that we got, why did they make that decision? What did it add to the film? Was there any reason other than to shoot in France? Well, it just baffled me, the direction that it went, and I think that's why this film has kind of probably done well in certain ways. It's artsy. They don't, like, when they're having the conversation between the two of them, they don't say anything. They, like, you know what they're saying, and you know that they're parting ways. But man, just have a conversation. Just say what you feel. Just say what you think. I don't know. I found that part of the film quite pretentious. It was like, why did you make them rich? Was there any reason to do that? What's the dad in this for? because the only thing that I could see was that they were trying to tell a little bit of Lou's story, but it's like, too late in the film, dude. I don't care. I've been watching Ruben, and I'm invested in Ruben. And I care about Ruben because that's who the film has been about and who it's been following. The way that it ended was with a little bit of a whimper for me. And again, a very artsy ending, and I guess the message was, shit, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have got this thing, everything was going so well, I got the operation done, this isn't what I wanted, the message is not to do the thing. To embrace it rather than try to hide it or fix it, because there's nothing to be fixed. Which, good, great message, cool. But the way that they did it was just, I don't know, emotionally there was something lacking there for me. It was the artsy ending, the artsy, pretentious ending in France for whatever reason with this rich family. As the audience, I wanted him obviously to go where it seemed healthiest for him, which was the school, the place that he learned sign language and learned to live with what he had been given. And it didn't have to be so heavy-handed as having the last scene of him going back and like sharing a look with Joe and Joe smiling and it all been happy, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, it just seemed like a weird way to end the film, and I understood the message, and I approve of the message. I liked the message. It was just kind of a bittersweet, sad ending, I suppose. I think with a little bit of time, I've come to like it a little bit more, because at the same time, everything happening to Ruben is quite bittersweet. You know, he's a drummer who has lost the ability to fully enjoy that. Yet he's found happiness and peace within himself at the place that he went to with Joe and with the children and the teacher and the people there, and he made friends there. And the story in itself is very bittersweet. So it reflects that. The ending does reflect that. It's not neat and tied with a bow. And it's not that I think stories should be told neatly or tied with a bow, but for me, it just, there was something dissatisfying about the way it ended. The film at one point was getting ready to kind of wrap itself up nicely, not necessarily like nice and happily, but with a conclusion that was a nice payoff for the emotional road that we'd been on. And then the film started to open up these little avenues, these new little avenues that it couldn't possibly tie off because there was only like 20 minutes, maybe less, left of the film. Not only that, it started to try and tell Lou's story. It tried to say, it tried to kind of give a bit more background to her and her dad, and tell a little bit of Dad's story. And it's like, this isn't the film that I've been watching, and you can't resolve all of this with the time that you have. It just seemed, that's why it seemed very out of place to go there. The last part of the film seemed very jarring. So yeah, so I've got mixed feelings about the film. I enjoyed the film. But so with that said, let's summarize. I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the film. I know it doesn't sound like it because I've just been bitching about it for the last like 10-15 minutes, more or less. But I enjoyed the film. It just ended, the ending was weak for me. It was weak. It kind of left me like, wait, well, what? Why? I kept doing things that kept making me question, like, what? Why are you doing this? What? Okay, why? Okay. And then it ended on how it ended, with him just turning the machines off. And I was like, okay, that's how you wanted to end the film? Sure. Casting an actor that wasn't either deaf or hard of hearing was a major flaw in the film, and it showed. I could see it. I wasn't convinced by that part of that performance, which was a shame. If you enjoyed the film, that's great. I've got loads of links down below. I am also a fantasy author, so if you'd like to support the channel, please do have a look at the links below. There are a few books available on Amazon, both in ebook and paperback format, anywhere in the world for the most part. So have a look there. Go see if that's something that you'd be into, and thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please consider subscribing. That stuff all helps, and I will see you next time. Fucking better do.